Today's presentation will focus on the Brain Mind Teaching and Learning Midterm that I've just completed in the fall of 2018. So just a little information about myself. This is my fifth year teaching. My first year, I was a teacher in Pompton Lakes, and the past 4 years, I have been in the Milburn Township District. My first year in Milburn, I was a sixth and seventh grade elective teacher in which I taught a sixth grade technology class and a seventh grade broadcasting class. My second year in Milburn, I was a life science eighth grade teacher. And for the past 2 years, I have been in a pre-K through fourth grade elementary school at South Mountain in Milburn, in which I am a technology facilitator. So within that job, I not only work with students in K to 4, but I also work with teachers as well, either individually or in small groups, just to get them future ready and to keep up with all the latest technology, with digital citizenship, with coding, and a lot of hands-on STEM and STEAM activities. So today for my lesson presentation, I'm going to be starting off with some general information. So talking about the target audience, objectives, standards, a lesson overview, essential questions, and the evaluation assessment techniques. So my target audience for this lesson is all the fourth grade students at South Mountain Elementary School. So there are currently 58 students that range between 9 and 10 years old. This lesson will actually be broken up into two different parts, so two 40-minute lessons essentially, and students will learn about the term digital footprint. So within this lesson, there are some objectives. So by the end of these two different parts, students will be able to determine the word digital footprint and identify online activities that do contribute to it. They will also figure out ways that they are and are not in charge of their digital footprint, which is really important in today's society. And in addition to understanding what responsibilities they have for digital footprints of themselves and for others. So the main standards that are addressed in these lessons relate to the New Jersey core curriculum content standards, and that is demonstrating an understanding of the need to practice cyber safety, cybersecurity, and cyber ethics when technology is in social media. So lesson overview and big ideas. Students in fourth grade have already learned about private and personal information. And this is my second year at South Mountain, but students in third grade did learn about digital citizenship as well. And I do teach lessons throughout kindergarten and fourth grade, ranging on the different age levels of digital citizenship and ways to be safe and responsible online when it comes to cybersecurity and also with ways of communicating both in and outside of school. So students in fourth grade learned about their media choices, private and personal information. But for these two lessons in particular, students will learn that digital footprints are not just a personal matter, and they will learn how to create a positive digital reputation moving forward. So 3 essential questions that will be focused in these two lessons. The first one is, why do people share information about themselves online? The second is, why is it risky to share private information online? And the third is, how does our online activity affect the digital footprints of ourselves and others? So there's going to be a variety of different evaluation and assessment techniques for these two lessons. The first lesson will start off with a share jumper game, which is through Common Sense Media. It's an activity just to get students involved and engaged and interested in the topic of digital footprint. They have to make choices with a little online character, and if they make the right choice, they're able to advance. And if they make the incorrect choice, it kind of starts them again from the beginning. Following, there will be a digital footprint breakout EDU, which I'll get into in a little bit more detail in later slides, but that will be another sort of evaluation assessment. Flipgrid responses about famous individuals' digital footprint. Flipgrid is something that we do use a lot at South Mountain, especially in grades 2nd through 4th grade. So students are familiar with this platform in which they can record their responses, which I'll also touch upon in a little bit too. There's going to be also a quiz on a Google form that students will be completing with information regarding digital footprints, just to make sure that they understand what they are and ways that they can make positive choices moving forward. They're going to be creating digital footprints using Google Drawings of themselves, and they're also going to be participating and with Nearpod and also with questions that the teacher asked throughout these 2 lessons. So now I'm going to talk about information and teaching strategies throughout these 2 lessons, which focus on sense and meaning, primacy and recency, learning styles, multiple intelligences, TPAC, and then examples throughout each of these. So for sense and meaning, so lessons have to make sense. In order for them to make sense, students need to understand the content, but they also need to realize why they're being taught that, or else it's just not going to really connect later on. So students for sense, the first one is students will learn about what a digital footprint is. We have in our district what's called Lightspeed, which is a way that the district is able to monitor students on the computer and also for staff as well. But I think it's important for students to understand that whatever choices that they do make online can come back to them, whether it's in a good way or in a bad way. So I was planning on starting definitely in the beginning of my lessons talking about Lightspeed, showing the students Lightspeed, just so they can really grasp, the reality of it all in school, but also understand that this applies outside of school too. And then another example of sense and meaning is students will identify ways they are and are not in control of their digital footprints. So students will research a famous individual's digital footprint by Googling them, and then they will be recording their responses and what they find out using Flipgrid. So for primacy and recency, it's important to make sure that the students are engaged in the beginning of a lesson, because this is usually the time where they are retaining that information. So after playing a little bit of the story jumper game, really the beginning of the lesson is going to be the breakout EDU activity. So within these activities and different problems, they're going to be solving codes and completing activities to learn about what a digital footprint is. In later slides, I'll show pictures, but it's pretty much a few plastic boxes with locks that need to be coded before the lesson. So there is a lot of prep work involved prior, but they are really great. We received a grant for them a few years ago through our education foundation. So there are activities that will be mixed in with these boxes that students will work together and complete with each other in order to be able to break and solve the code for all the boxes. And then for downtime, we're going to review the definition of what a digital footprint is, specific vocabulary terms using Nearpod, which we also have the premium subscription for, which is really great, in addition to searching for a famous individual's digital footprint online. And as I mentioned before, we're going to be recording these responses on Flipgrid. And during prime time 2, students will be completing a Google form quiz to make sure that they are retaining the information throughout the 2 lessons, and also be creating a digital footprint of themselves for themselves using Google Drawings, which everyone has access to because we are a Google district. And if time allows, after the 2 lessons, we will be playing, in addition, the share jumper game again, so that way students can review the knowledge from the beginning of the lesson. So for learning styles, the 4 different learning styles that are going to be addressed are abstract sequential, abstract random, concrete sequential, and concrete random. So for abstract sequential, the story jumper game, students will be able to make choices. They'll be able to work independently, which would work best for those specific learners. As for abstract random, the breakout EDU activity, there are different parts to it. So if you open up one box, you don't necessarily have to open up a box of a certain size. Sometimes you unlock something and you can go in different directions. So it will help those learners that are used to going in random and learning in random ways instead of in a sequence. And then in regards to concrete sequential, Nearpod is very teacher driven, so that way those students can stay on task. And for concrete random, searching for a famous individual's digital footprint online will really help those students with Flipgrid, because they also are looking up information. So they do have responsibility, but it's also something that has some different guidelines to it. So in regards to Gardner's theory of multiple intelligences, these are the different multiple intelligences that will be addressed in these 2 lessons. So visual spatial, this the learners that are visual and spatial do need to see things visually. So creating a digital footprint using Google Drawings would be beneficial for those different learners. In regards to linguistic, students that are primarily use words and adjectives and sentences for their learning will really succeed with using Flipgrid, which records their responses and puts them in a platform so other students can see and hear how they were able to answer different questions. And then in regards to interpersonal, these students are going to reflect on how aware they are of their own digital footprint and ways they can improve on this moving forward. For bodily kinesthetic, this will be great for the students that are very hands-on, so the breakout EDU activity would be great for those individuals. In regards to nature, distinguishing the similarities and differences between a physical and digital footprint, because physical footprints like walking in the sand, walking in a mud, although they are different, they do have a lot of similarities in regards to your DNA, and being able to trace anything back to you, even in a physical sense, is very similar digitally. And then in regards to musical, there is a part of the Breakout EDU where students need to listen to a song. So students that are more musical will be really enjoying that part of the lesson and learning. And then logical, solving puzzles and codes with Breakout EDU for students that are more logic-based. And interpersonal, there is a lot of group work. There's going to be a lot of verbal communication. So students who do enjoy that will succeed during those parts of the lessons. In regards to TPAC, so TPAC will be addressed in multiple ways from the beginning of the lesson all the way throughout the second lesson. So as I mentioned before, the Nearpod link that I'm going to be posting will be on Google Classroom for students to access not only during the lesson, but also afterwards, which will be very helpful for them. The Nearpod is going to include open-ended questions. It's going to include polls and discussions and videos and images. So there will be a lot of different modalities addressed. In regards to TCK, Nearpod again incorporates facts such as videos to further explain digital footprints. And also for PCK, Flipgrid, Google Drawings, Nearpod, all of these different technologies will be addressed in the pedagogical sense that also ties in the knowledge and the technology. So all of these will be working together. So I already mentioned a lot of the technologies that will be used, but just in a little bit more detail, I'll get into specific, general, and also the SAMR model too. So general technology, I do have a smart panel in my room, which is really great. So I'll be using that a lot. The beginning of the lesson for the Nearpod for directions. So there will be a lot of use for the smart panel, along with students being able to come up and use it interactively. We do have Lenovo Chromebooks, so each student will have their own Chromebook, which is great. It's touchscreen, and they are able to do every activity digitally on there. In addition to the breakout EDU boxes, which students will be working in groups, but that is a form of the hands-on technology in the beginning of the lesson, in addition to the internet and also Google. So for specific technology, each teacher in my building, K-4, has a Google Classroom. So we're going to be using that Google Classroom to post the Nearpod link, also to be posting the directions. And students are very familiar and comfortable with Google Classroom. In regards to Nearpod, the Nearpod is going to be used to describe what a digital footprint is, provide examples. Students are very familiar with Nearpod as well, so this should be something that is common to them, but will be new information with the digital footprint. Flipgrid will be used to record their responses about their famous person. So students will receive a list of famous individuals, and they will get to pick what individual they want to research, making sure that there's not a lot of the same people, and then they will record what they find about that person's digital footprint using Flipgrid. And then also Google Forms, which students will use for the online tracks lesson quiz, and Google Drawings to create their own digital footprints. So now, as we are getting, a little bit into the end of the lesson, I want to talk about information and brain research. So talking about the neurons, sensory input, cerebral lobes, and also the limbic system. So here's some information on brain research that will be addressed throughout both lessons. So neurons help information circulate throughout the body. So sensory neurons will be addressed especially during the breakout EDU activity and the Nearpod. In regards to the motor neurons, drawing, Google Drawings will be very hands-on, and also the Flipgrid activity too will be stimulated during that part. And then sensory input, there's a lot of lessons, as I mentioned before, with Gardner's multiple intelligences. So examples of touch, the breakout EDU, the sight viewing projects, and also being able to view the Flipgrids with the sound. And then for brain research, cerebral lobes, accessible, near-pod image videos, these will all be part of the one side of the brain. For temporal, for Flipgrid, frontal Google Drawings, and also parietal lobe for the breakout EDU activities. And then for limbic system, the hypothalamus, excitement and engagement during the lesson. I'm hoping that that will carry on from the beginning of the lesson all the way throughout the ends of the lesson with all the different activities and the technologies that will be used. In addition to just really making sure that students connect digital footprints to prior knowledge, they're connecting it to their individual footprint and understanding the relevance that this has, not only when they're in fourth grade, but also how this can carry on throughout the rest of their lives, and making sure that students are really keeping on task throughout this Nearpod activity. And then these are just a list of all my works cited for the information, and I also have the links for all the picture sources in the notes section of the Google Slides. So thank you very much.